Last week when I made a video, I was in the mindset. I was practicing the mindset of staying positive and basically altering my way of thought and my way of feeling so I could overcome the fear that could potentially occur within me. And I wanted to share that ability with you. But with that being said, although I found it a very productive video and I found it very helpful for me to even watch it again, and hopefully it was helpful for other people as well, I need to address the other side of the coin, the other side of the situation, because we need to be aware of both of it. We can't just wish it away. We can't just imagine that everything's going to be okay and have it be okay. Now, I'm not in any way diminishing the power of the mind to change things, but what I want to basically say is that the power of the mind is the foundation. It's where we can begin. It's what is necessary to be at the ground level for us to act in accordance with what is necessary to do what we need to do in order to handle this properly. So let me elaborate. I felt I needed to say this today because I was talking to a friend of mine last night, and he told me that when he seen my video the other day, he didn't exactly click on it right away. He didn't, well, I think he watched a little bit of it and decided that he wasn't ready for it, essentially. And what he meant was that he was still researching a lot, and he was very aware and feeling the entire tragedy of the situation, the gravity of the situation. So to watch a video where I'm speaking about overcoming the fear and using the power of the mind to focus and basically meditate to transcend the fear and the panic, he didn't feel as if it would resonate with him at that point, because he was still feeling everything that was going on. He was still feeling all the emotions. He was still feeling all the tragedy that is happening every day at this point. Now, I was fully aware when I made that video that that's a possibility, that people may see it and they may think to themselves, it's easy for me to say these things because I'm not directly affected. Like, as of right now, I don't know of anybody who is affected by this virus. I'm not dealing with the fear every day of losing someone I love, or losing myself for that matter. So yeah, it's a bit of an easier situation to be in, and it's easier to maintain that level of confidence and maintain that level of faith when I'm not directly affected. So I wanted to speak to the people that are directly affected, and maybe just those who are not ready to hear that we're in control, that it's up to us to change our mindset. Because when you're dealing with the fear of losing a loved one, even if you aren't directly affected at this point, but you have people that are at higher risk, and there are cases all around you, and you never know when you could be affected, it's a lot harder to maintain a positive mindset. I understand that. I can feel your worry. I can feel the panic. I can feel the anxiety. For me, I allow myself to feel these emotions. I allow myself to take them on, because by neglecting our emotions, by trying to push them away, we only make them stronger. But by feeling them, by processing them in a healthy way, by allowing ourselves to feel the fear and understand that that's okay, by allowing ourselves to feel the sadness and understand that that's okay, that's how we move past it. If you've already lost someone, or if you're afraid of losing someone and you're going through the grieving process, dealing with the idea of loss, then it's necessary for you to feel that. It's necessary for you to honor your emotion, for you to respect it, for to know that it's natural, to know that it's a part of life. The more cases that come out of this, the more of us that will be directly affected, the more of us that will feel this fear, feel this pain, feel this sadness, feel this loss. So it's important that we know how to deal with it properly. Because as I said in the last one, if we get caught in the emotions, if we let them overwhelm us, if we let them overtake us, then we are only creating the possibility of more of it. And that is the simple truth of it. And like I said before, there's a lot of pressure that comes with that statement, because then you feel like you got to monitor your thoughts at all time. Now, that is a good practice to have regardless. It's something we should practice in everyday life. It's something that we should be responsible for, is our own thoughts and our own feelings. Because if we don't monitor them and we're not aware of what we think and feel, then we end up having an effect on the world around us that is unconscious. It's not a conscious decision for us to do things. Then it becomes automatic. When we talk about, like in the spiritual community, or when you hear people talk about the power of consciousness and harnessing it and those kinds of subjects, with more so, I guess, the New Age philosophy, this is more characterized in that realm. People have taken on the idea that we can just change the way we think and then everything will change, and then we don't have to worry about anything, we don't have to fear anything. But people take this the wrong way, and they think of it as neglecting their thoughts, neglecting their feelings, and not understanding them. But it's important that we understand them. I, for myself, would not be where I am today if I had not gone within and understood where all my fear came from, where all my anxiety came from, where all my depression came from, where all my feelings of inadequacy came from. I needed to understand that in order to overcome it. If someone had just told me, just imagine that you're already confident, just pretend you're confident, just fake it till you make it, it wouldn't have worked for me, because every time I would have tried, every time I did try, it was, there was a dissonance always. It never felt real. There was always a voice in the back of my head that said, this is not true. You're not that person. You're not in that state. Now, it's not to say that we shouldn't practice a higher state of being and a higher state of consciousness where we focus on the positive. It's still productive to focus on the positive. But at no point should we try to forget the other side. In order to live in harmony, in order to live in peace, you have to know what you're capable of. In order to know what you are, you have to know that you have the capacity for fear and for sadness and for tragedy and all those things. That's the duality of existence. That's just how it is. And it is understanding that and coming to terms with that that allows us to transcend our emotions. So to those people who are directly affected, even who aren't, to those people who are dealing with the fear and it's hard and they don't know what to do and they don't feel they have the capacity to overcome their own panic, I'm here for you, in spirit and in body. If you want to call me, if you want to talk to me, I'm here. You can tell me how you feel. I can give you what advice I can, but if you don't want to hear my advice, that's fine. You can just talk. I can just be there for you. It's easy to feel like we're alone in this situation, especially when you're self-isolating. For those people who aren't used to that kind of thing, it can be very terrifying, it can be very uneasy. So we need to support each other. Our fears are legitimate. They're valid. Makes sense to be very scared at this time. When I speak about these types of subjects, because of how I've been for the past 7 years, my mind is trained to gravitate towards solution always. And the solution to that fear is what I explained last time. That we need to recognize that fear provides us with information. It says something is not right in your current situation. It says something needs to change. You need to bring your awareness to something in order to change it. So when we bring our awareness to this current situation, it will help us to understand more about it. And if you are directly affected and you fear you may lose someone who's close to you, the best thing you can do for them is maintain a positive mind. It's practical. It's logical. It's the most rational thing you can do for you and your loved ones. I wasn't sure if I was going to drop on this, but it just came to my mind, so I'm going to do it. When I lost my dad 5 years ago, almost 5 years ago now, I was in this same state of mind. I was in a state of mind where I was, I had come to terms with my own death. I understood the big picture. I understood that it's all part of it. And I was much more accepting of it than I would have been if it had happened maybe 3 or 4 years prior to that. In which case I probably would have been absolutely destroyed. I don't know how I would have turned out after that. But since I knew the truth of the matter when this happened, I was in the hospital. I was in the hospital with him. And at first we didn't know why. At first we thought he was there just to fix his broken arm, because he had broken his arm. But it turns out his arm broke so easily because he had cancer in his bones. So I visited him a couple times in the hospital, and then I left to go drive some people I knew a few hours away. And I was going to go and visit a farm where I was about to stay for a few months. And I didn't think much of it. You know, I thought he was going to get surgery for his arm and that would be it. And I do admit, in the back of my head, I had suspicions because his arm broke so easily. It was worrisome. But I wasn't letting myself fully consider that possibility because I was trying to focus on the positive. But then my mom called me and she said, "You got to come back to town." And I went back. And when I got back, Dad was, he was unconscious. Because when he went into surgery, he had a stroke from, I'm assuming, the drugs that they had put him on. But then they found out that he had cancer as well. So when I got there, he was unconscious. And all I knew I could do was raise my spirit, was raise my consciousness to visualize him as already healed. And I knew there's a possibility that he wouldn't heal, but that wasn't the point. The point wasn't to, meditate on it and heal him. The point was to do my best. And if he healed, then that's great. But if he didn't, I was still okay knowing I did my best. And that's how we got to deal with these emotions. We got to be able to do our best. Because if we don't do our best and we let fear take over and we make mistakes, and those are the types of things that will be hard to let go. Those types of regrets might haunt us for a long time. Now, there are ways of dealing with that as well. You can let go of regrets. You can move on from those things as well. But the way we deal with fear, the way we deal with situations where we feel as if we have no control, we address it. We ask ourselves, is there anything I can do in this situation? And in the example of my dad, there wasn't. Physically, there was nothing I could do. The doctors were doing everything they could, and it was out of my control. So I told my mom and I told my sister, I said, regardless of whether or not you believe this, I want you to imagine him as already healed. I don't want you to get attached to the idea and need it to happen. I don't want you to get your hopes up. That's not what I'm saying. I just want you to go inward, find a place where he's healthy, and find that emotion and harness it. Find that energy and emanate it. And that's what I did for myself. I spent a lot of time at his bedside, and I knew that the cancer had started in his kidney. So, as he lied there, I put my hand on his stomach where I thought a kidney was. I wasn't sure, to be honest with you. And I just pictured him healed. I just was saying to myself, essentially, you're all right. Healing energy is coming from me and going into you. So even if he never recovered fully from it, I knew that the energy I was giving him was helping him in some way. It was giving him more of a fighting chance than he was before. Because that loving energy does heal, regardless of whether you believe it or not. It's the nature of reality. That's how it works. But ultimately, he was ready to go. And knowing my dad, I knew he wouldn't have wanted to come back to a sick body, because even if he survived that particular incident, he would have had to go on living with cancer, and he would have had to been taken care of by us. He would have had to have been like babied and pampered, and that is not who he is. He's a proud man, and he would sooner die than have someone look after him. So I did what I could. I changed the way I thought. I changed the way I felt. And I accepted the outcome. I started to come to terms with this could be the end of him, and that's something I have to accept. And although it broke my heart, when he left, it was very emotional, clearly. I asked the people that were in the room, my aunt, my uncle, my dad's best friend, and a few others, if I could have some time alone with him. If I could have some time alone with him, because I needed to let it out. I felt that emotion so strongly that it needed to move through me. I couldn't sit there and keep it down. And I didn't need to. I could have easily done it in front of the people around me, but it's never been who I was. I've always been that guy that didn't want to show my sadness around others. So I asked everyone to leave, and I bawled. I let everything out. I screamed and cried and wept, and by the end of it, I felt better. I felt more in control. I felt calmer. And I felt ready to support my family, because I knew that we were all going to need support. We're all going to need to be there for each other. So I grieved, and I did it in a healthy way. When I needed to cry, I cried. When I needed to yell, I yelled. When I needed to talk to my dad, I did. I just acted as if he was always with me. When I needed to say something I felt like I needed to say, I said it. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that it's important that you respect and honor your emotions at this time. Don't neglect them. Don't take the advice I gave before as if I'm saying to forget the fear and not think about it and just push it away. At no time, at no point do I ever want you to push it away. I want you to feel it. I want you to understand that we are staring death in the face now as a global community. One of the reasons why I think I never addressed it last time was because I was already in the mindset of this grand tragedy. I was already aware that this was happening even before the virus. You know, I feel empathy for every living being, every conscious, sentient being that can know pain and suffering. I feel a connection. And even before the virus, there were upwards of, I think, like 150,000 people dying every day. So there's always time to feel pain and loss. There's always something there for you to feel sad for. So if you felt sad every time there was a need, every time there was a reason to feel sad, then you would never not be sad, because there's always suffering in the universe. There's always pain. There's always fear. All we can do is change what we feel in ourselves. And by doing so, we influence what others feel and experience. So yeah, when something sad happens, feel sad. And when something joyful happens, feel joy. Practice a life that creates more joy than sadness. Practice habits that create more happiness than suffering. Practice a mentality that creates more community than separation. We're going to get through this, people. And I understand that when I say that, I'm obviously not speaking to everyone, because there could be someone watching this right now that ends up getting the virus and dies. It's a possibility. What I mean is, with humanity, we'll get through this. I don't know how many will die as a result, but that's where we come in. We do our best to take every precaution we can, physically in the material world, but I beg of you, do not neglect the spirit. Go within, spend some time with just your feelings and your thoughts, and process them, understand them, get to know them, and grow from it. Practice positive mindsets. Practice a state of love. Practice a state of compassion. Practice a state of acceptance. By accepting death, you are not welcoming it. By pushing it away, you are. By neglecting it and trying to forget it, you are only giving more energy to it. By accepting pain and suffering, you are not welcoming it. You are understanding it's part of the whole. But by trying to forget it, trying to neglect it, you are creating more of it. So don't neglect the pain. Don't neglect your suffering. Feel it, know it, honor it, grow from it, let it move through you. Ultimately, it's just energy. Everything is energy. And the pain and sadness you feel and the fear you feel is energy as well. And if you process it properly, it will move through you and you will be healed from it. And when you do that, you will help others around you heal as well. I think I've said all I need to say. I love you, everyone. We can do this. Do what you can. And once you've done what you can, go inward, go inside, go within, and do what you can in there, because it's equally as important, if not more. We need to be active. We need to be proactive. We need to be smart. We need to be aware. And we need to strengthen our connection with ourselves and with everyone else. That is how we will get through this. Peace, everyone. I love you all.